Oh, no.
You have to be quiet.
Hey, Molly, can I get my name on my pen?
Yeah, just pass that back after the meeting.
Okay, I see you missed it on there.
Oversight. You should move over. Next time.
High maintenance.
It's gonna be late.
Call the June 24th Forest Lake Area School Board meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, please take roll call.
Member Berkran. Here. Member Corcoran is here. Member Ketto.
Here.
Ketto is here. Member Olson.
Here.
Member Olson is here. Member Rayfield. Member Rayfield is absent. Member Tyson.
Here.
Member Tyson is here. Member Peterson.
Here.
Member Peterson is here, and Member Luther is here.
This time I'd entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Changes? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Move on to scheduled, unscheduled visitors. Did we have anyone for the listening session?
We did not have anyone for the listening session.
Thank you, Member Ketto. Then we will move on to student achievement. Forest Lake High School Principal Jim Colba.
Thank you, Chair Peterson, Superintendent Massey, and the rest of the school board. It's always an honor to come talk to the school board and give us our student achievement report for the year. It's even better that we can do it in person without masks on and have guests come and speak to you. It gives me a little life. I got a little tired of talking on Google Meets. Today we're going to talk about our Forest Lake Area High School and our college and career readiness. It fits right into our strategic plan. As you know, the district has worked really hard on putting together what I would say is one of the top strategic plans in our area. Everything that we do goes back to this plan, and this specifically focuses on excellence in career, college, and future preparedness. Goal number 4, developing and enhance each student's academic, technical, and professional skills to equip them in identifying and preparing themselves for their career path. That career path, as I have talked about for the last 3 or 4 years, is not just about college. It's about career and tech ed as well. And we have done a lot of work having that pendulum swing back to the middle, having students choose a career path that really fits them, knowing that not every student is going to go to a 4-year college, that there are tons of opportunities out there in career and tech ed as well. We do have our Ranger U dual credit and certification program. We've come up with a couple different logos. You'll see the Ranger U up in the right-hand corner. Anytime you see that in our registration materials or our stuff that we hand out, that means there's college credit attached to those classes. And at the high school right now, we have 43 different college credit bearing courses. We have 12 CIS courses, 15 dual credit courses, and 16 AP courses at the high school. That covers 12 departments. We have 15 departments in the high school. So 12 of our departments have college bearing courses within them. The ones that do not right now, actually we only have 2 that do not, Phy-Ed and our special ed department does not. We've also been working really hard with equal opportunity schools. As you know, closing the achievement gap is something that we're working on across the nation and especially at the state, and Forest Lake High School is no different. And we've really been working on our marginalized populations with students that do not see themselves in those previous courses that I just mentioned. They don't see themselves taking CIS courses because students like them are not in them. So we have a bunch of outreach efforts that we are doing to close that gap. And as you can see from this chart, this is from Equal Opportunity Schools. This is 90% of our, 99% of next year's student enrollment. We have 717 students that have signed up for either an AP course, AP and occupational relation or dual credit course, or just a dual credit course. And if you look on where the black line goes across all the way on the far right, that is our white students. So our middle class to high income white students, 54% of them are signing up for those classes. And as you follow that across, and this is something that we're super proud of, our Black African American students are out registering our white students in those courses. That is a huge gain. Our Asian students are at par with what our white students are doing. We have a lot of work to do with our Hispanic students, and we also have a lot of work to do in our low-income areas. The one that is most interesting to me, if you look at our Asian students, our low-income students are actually registering for those courses at a higher rate than the high-income students. This is just a marker for us to monitor every year. We take this data at the beginning of the year, and then we also take it at the end of the year. These are registered students, so we will see once the year gets going how many of those students actually follow through and take those courses. The other piece that we have worked really hard at doing, because we know not everybody is headed for college, these are our certification programs that we have at the high school. There's 12 different certification programs that students can get after they take courses. Certified nursing, emergency medical responder. We've all heard stories about our students that have gone through the EMT program. Some of them end up going to medical school, some do not. Some go ride in an ambulance. My son's, for one, he has a degree from the University of Northwestern, and he's working for Allina Medical right now on one of their ambulance rigs. We have students all over the metro doing these things. Some of these others are newer to us, and we don't have a lot of stories with, and I'm not going to take the thunder away from the two people that are following up after me, because they have some specific stories that will point out some of these certifications. With that, we have done a lot of work with our career and tech ed coordinator, Mike Miron, who's sitting behind me, and our college and career readiness coordinator, Molly Bonnet. These positions were added back to the high school when we passed our levy, okay? The high school cannot do what it's doing without these two phenomenal people working behind the scenes. They are the rubber that meets the road. They're the ones that get all of the work done. It's easy for me to sit at 10,000 feet and say, hey, we need to do this and we need to do that. Without the support of these two, that would not happen. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Mike and Molly so they can show you some of the work that they're doing to support that goal number 4.
Unfortunately, I can't say the two of us are as funny as the sitcom, but we'll give it our best shot here. So I think increasingly at the high school, we're aware that we need to do a better job of preparing our students for the current labor market. And there's a real significant disconnect in the labor market where either there is cases of underemployment, people are educated and not finding employment, or there's a skills gap and people don't have the skills that employers are requesting. So with that in mind, we're really doing a lot to intentionally help our students focus on some of these questions. What type of lifestyle do you hope for yourself? How do you want to spend your day? What kind of income do you hope to have? And then from there, work to identify some careers of interest that could support that lifestyle. Once those questions are at least initially answered, and of course we know that students are going to change and evolve as they should, but the idea is just to give it initial thought, then what path is best for you to help meet your career goals? And so we're consistently talking to students about how many career goals can be met through apprenticeship, college, military, and or work in some cases. So we know that the best way to help students try to start thinking about these difficult questions that isn't maybe inherent to them, they don't immediately care to think about these all the time, is through their coursework every day, through events that we host at the high school, communications both to students and families, and then of course individual meetings. Sometimes that's really what students want most of all, is just to sit down and talk it through. So we have our career exploration framework here, and we know that absolutely the most important thing is that all of our students have a really strong academic foundation. And we also know that this is met through all of our AP and CIS and core courses that Jim just referred to. We hope that as we continue this work, there will be some career information that will be increasingly shared with students, and not just our CTE courses, but also our core academic area. So from there, we know that kids will benefit from developing technical skills through their CTE coursework and professional skills. We often hear from employers how most important are those professional skills, work ethic, time management, problem solving, communication, and we do some of that work with resume building and interviewing skills. And then, of course, for those that are increasingly focused, we want them to participate in some sort of capstone internship, job shadow, career conversation. So throughout that journey, Ranger Connect and a platform that we use, Zello, is there to help inform students along the way. So as you all know, Ranger Connect is now a credit-bearing class. Students have the opportunity to earn a quarter credit each year, so it essentially gives them an extra credit in their schedule to potentially afford them some wiggle room. Some of the main things that we do in Ranger Connect is to utilize that platform, Zello, that we have. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Again, some more of that professional skill development for our 9th and 10th graders. We're maybe focusing a little bit more on the social emotional learning side. And for our juniors, we're asking that all juniors participate in either a job shadow or career conversation. So Zello is that tool that is comprised of assessments that students can learn about what careers might be a good fit for them, their learning style, their personality style. They can kind of just develop an overall portfolio for themselves. There are lessons for each grade, and then other tools such as the resume builder. This is impossible to see, I realize, but this would be a snapshot of one of our students' portfolios. So at any time, a student can look and be reminded of what their learning style is, what their personality style, and if you look at the bottom there, you'll see there are top 10 career matches based on, for the student, likely their assessments that they took, and also any other careers that they maybe found along the way and found interesting, and they can go ahead and like those and refer back to them. Each career has a significant profile, which gives all sorts of information, salary information, demand information, and then it also provides education and training information, so it kind of backwards designs students through the process and then how they can receive that education and training. So of course, all this work is very much driven by our career wheel, and it's not just Forest Lake's career wheel. This is the career wheel used by the state and frankly for many states across the country. So as you are all well aware, the middle school has just gone through a redesign process that was also largely informed by this career wheel. So this career wheel now appears on doors all around the building. It's featured in all sorts of communications to our students, so they're kind of consistently thinking about what are those career clusters that are of interest to them. Our Career Pathways Guide just had its 3rd publication this year. This was really born from the feeling that students felt lost when they were registering, that we have a lot of choices in our district, which is a fantastic thing to have for our students, but they didn't know how to put the puzzle pieces together. So too often we'd hear from a student who had interest in engineering and say, I had no idea we had engineering classes. Or we'd hear from a student who said they wanted to be a doctor and they said, I had no idea we had CNA or EMR or EMT. So it's just basically a guide to help them understand what some of their choices are. Nobody's telling them that they have to take these classes, but if you're interested in a certain pathway, these might be some classes that will help you further along that pathway. Those pathways highlighted in yellow there are our pathways that are specifically being financially supported by 2 DLI grants that we have received, 2 youth service training grants. $90,000 and $100,000 for those 2 grants. So that affords us all sorts of opportunities, which Mike will talk a little bit more about shortly. So heading back into that coursework, we know that coursework provides great experiential learning opportunities for our students, as you can see from these 3 pictures. We know events also help provide students with a lot of opportunity for exposure to what they might want to do and how they want to do it. We were able to pull off a College Knowledge Month this year. We were in hybrid learning at the time. You can see those I applied signs, real simple. I just went around, and for those students that were interested in college, technical, community, or four-year, it was a way to encourage them to apply early. There are all sorts of benefits to applying early, and we just wanted to kind of create a little bit of positive peer pressure for those students. You can see in the top left there, holding pendants, and in the top right, different prizes. We had college trivia in the cafeteria. People would come up, answer questions, and get prizes. And we were able to still host visits. Military, college, bottom right there. Our students would gather in one space, and then the professional or the person providing the information would join us virtually. Career Exploration Day, I'm really happy to say, happened twice this year. In the bottom right, in December, it was completely virtual at that time, so that meant that our students, our teachers, and our professionals who were joining us all did so virtually. We had great participation. You can see we had cameras on, which was fantastic, and our participation for our students was very high. In the lower left, you can hardly see that. In May, we had kind of a hybrid Career Exploration Day where our teachers and our students were able to be together in person, and our professionals still joined virtually, with the exception of our education panel. Mr. Caldwell and Ms. Smudgick are in person, and then my husband joined virtually. The top two are from previous Career Exploration Days. We even had LifeLink join us one year with the helicopter, which was really awesome. So we often hear from students that they love tours. They really can't quite visualize or understand what it might be like to work in an environment until they see it in person. So it wasn't quite the same, but in the top right, we still wanted to honor that and try to create some tour experiences virtually. So that's a tour with Design Ready Controls, where they got a virtual tour of the facility, as well as the opportunity to hear from an electrician, an electrical engineer, an assembler. And then some of those other photos are from Schweeters, Construct Tomorrow event, Rosenbauer. So we know students like to get on site. I was just talking to Member Thiessen earlier about our newsletters, and I think a lot of you had recently seen our Career Launch newsletter. This is new this year, that we're trying to help foster more understanding of these opportunities for students by sending it out to families, to students, and then to our different industry partners that we have. I also write a Career and College Center newsletter that goes to both juniors and seniors. It's two different newsletters, and that too goes to families. And with that, we're on to the Career Launch classes that Mike will talk a little bit more about.
Yeah, thanks, Molly. She alluded to the Department of Labor grant, and that Department of Labor grant really allowed us to do a couple of different things. One is invest in some equipment and resources that are more current with today's standards out in industry, and so a good portion of that, of those dollars were invested right back into classrooms where students are able to utilize those tools. But it also afforded us the opportunity to create two new classes. One of them is Career Launch Explore, the other is Career Launch Experience. Those are the two courses that I am teaching. And that, if you remember back to that funnel image, is really for the students who have purposely planned where they want to go, and they're ready to branch out into some other opportunities that we may not have within the walls of our building. And so because of that, they need to have taken the technical skill courses. I'm not teaching them any technical skills in Career Launch Explore because, quite frankly, their interests are diverse and I don't have the technical skill in all of those areas. So they have to do that first. But we do complete a deeper dive into that exploration that Molly was talking about. It's easy for a student to say they want to be an electrician, but they don't necessarily know what that all means in terms of what are all the opportunities for electricians or what are the different types. Same way with a doctor or an engineer or whatever it might be. There's so many different paths, so we try to really be more purposeful and dig deeper into that. And we do that through additional job shadowing. We try to pair them up with a mentor or a series of mentors where they can hear from somebody directly in the industry of what to expect. Molly mentioned all those professional skills. We can spend more time on that. Resumes, cover letter, interviewing, those pieces. And as Jim discussed, certifications, the OSHA 10 safety certification is embedded right into that course. So as we get into the internship, which is career launch experience, it's possible that a 16 or 17-year-old could be placed in some type of an industrial or manufacturing type of setting. And we want to make sure that that's safe for the student and safe for the business. And so I'll talk a little bit more about how that comes together in the next slide. But on the student part, they complete that certification. And so that helps me explain to the business that they've got some knowledge and background in what it means to be safe in the workplace. I select the sites for the students. We work hard to find a good match. This isn't necessarily simply an opportunity for a business to bring somebody on to just be an extra set of hands or to be an employee. We want this to be a true learning experience for the students. We want it to be immersive, and there's a level of mentorship and teaching that has to happen in the workplace as well. But we do allow students to leave school early so that they can complete these internships. And then the supervisors at the business are giving me feedback on their performance. Students are giving me reflection on what they're doing, and then I'm going out and visiting the students in the workplace to make sure that all those dots are being connected. So this is kind of the formula that we use to summarize what we were just visiting about. We want students to get new skills. We want them to earn high school credit. The value add is they can have a wage as well, and that's really how we've structured our work-based learning program. The Department of Labor grant opened up a gateway for us to utilize them to help grant some exceptions from certain child labor laws. So there are a lot of jobs that a 16 or 17-year-old wouldn't be able to do. But with their help, if they can come in and they can observe the workspace and they can verify with an OSHA consultant that it's a safe place for a student to be, then they will, the Department of Labor and Industry Commissioner will actually sign off on that exemption and allow 16 and 17-year-old students to work there. That's really critical to us getting students engaged in meaningful work at a job place rather than just something that they could do. It's something that we're allowing them to do. This is just a selection of the businesses who have gone through that YST approval process. We place students at businesses, especially 18-year-old students that are not on this list, but these are some of our business partners who bought into this early on and are approved. And then the last thing that I would mention as it relates to this is the strength of our advisory boards. This partnership really allowed us to engage businesses in the conversation and give them voice on what we were doing in our classrooms and the internship experiences that we can provide. And so they're providing them with opportunities, scenarios. They gave us feedback on that equipment that we were investing in to make sure that we were being strategic with those dollars rather than just purchasing things. And so you can see there are some of the boards that we have in place. We have our Career Launch Advisory Board, which is more of an overarching structure that tells us more in general what is some of the businesses want us, what direction they want us to be going in. But then we're getting deeper now into our pathway-specific advisory boards that are really drilling into those key curricular areas that are supported by the Department of Labor grant.
Before I forget, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Mike and I actually field a lot of phone calls from other schools and districts inquiring about our career pathway work. And we honestly tell them the reason why we've been able to go so far on this journey is because of the amazing foundation we've had with choice for our students. Our district is unparalleled with the number of elective choices that we give our students. And so oftentimes districts want to be where we are, and they've been cut to just their core coursework, and they don't have those opportunities. And so they're really building from a very different place than that from which we were able to build. And I just wanted to mention that before I forgot. So this last part of the slideshow is just all about celebrating our students and celebrating the choices that they have made at this particular point. So New this year, we were able to have a senior decision day, which was really an amazing, fun event to celebrate their decision, whatever it may be. So you can see they have a banner there. They were each encouraged to sign a brick with their name and their intended path, whether that was apprenticeship, college, military, or work. That banner is now hanging in what is affectionately known as Senior Square and will remain there until next year's banner comes along. They each received 2 really amazing posters. Special thanks to the Borboom family for helping with those. One poster went directly home to the family, and the other poster they got to hang themselves, which was actually a very prideful moment for them. In the center there, they could write on our advice banner for 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. I'm happy to say I didn't have to cross out one piece of advice. It was all wonderful. That was great. And then we had lunch provided by Famous Dave's and a couple of other activities. So I think a lot of fun was had by all. For this last part, we're going to highlight a few students because this is far more interesting and meaningful if you hear about it through the student perspective. So Emily Brommer, I started meeting with her as a sophomore. She was one of those very driven students who was early to be thinking about her career plans, and she thought she wanted to potentially go into human resources. By fall of her junior year, she had attended a career exploration day with a healthcare administrator, and she decided that that was the path that she wanted to take, and she never really deviated, which is rare. She never really deviated from that. By September of her senior year, she had applied to a variety of schools, and by October, she was accepted to the Carlson School of Business Management at the U. We haven't had students attend Carlson for several years. I think we have 5 students going there this year, so really exciting, very prestigious program. And the how are in her words. So when we sat down this year to count up her college credits, she's like, I'd like some help with this. No problem, let's take a look. 44 college credits that she earned in our building. So every time I meet with a student who wants to do PSCO, I challenge them on, if it's all about college credit, do you know how many you can earn in our building? So Emily is going in with a 1.5 years of college done, and if nothing else, it gives her a lot of freedom as she continues to explore. She took full advantage of some of those certifications that we added this year, including IC3, Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. She earned all of those. We hear from industry repeatedly that these are very valuable credentials in the workplace. We're obviously a Google school, as many schools are. Students don't have these skills, but they are still valued in the workplace. And then I already mentioned career exploration days. Emily also, as a junior, went on an actuary field trip to Travelers Insurance, and that's where she learned that she didn't want to be an actuary. So this is how she feels like, excuse me, how she feels like she got to such a solid understanding of where she wanted to go.
Pa was a student that I had in career launch courses. She knew she wanted to do something in the trades, but wasn't sure what that was. Automotive was something she was thinking about, maybe construction. And so we spent some time digging into that further in that Career Launch A class. That changed through that. She went on a tour with Molly to Schweter's companies in Hugo, and that's where the light bulb went off, that's the type of environment that she saw herself in. And so that changed the courses she was taking. That we were able to craft a plan together for her. She continued to participate in career exploration days, took a number of our industrial technology courses, and now she's in the Carpenters Union apprenticeship program. She's working with a company in Hugo, not the one she went on a tour for, but another company in Hugo, and they've taken her on, and so she's working during the day, during her apprenticeship classes at night, and she's continuing her training and has found the trade that she enjoys.
This is Vivian Algier, and Vivian is kind of a unique story because we obviously don't have like immediate opportunity for aviation in our building, but she decided early on that she was interested in aviation and became part of the Civil Air Patrol at the Blaine Airport and had been participating in that since sophomore. It was through career exploration days that she felt like her passion for aviation grew. Vivian is one that really took advantage of our college and military visits. Whenever I have a student who's interested in the military, I really encourage them to talk or attend a session from all of the different branches so they fully understand their options, just like you would with college. And through that, she has woven together and placed these puzzle pieces to create a very unique opportunity for herself. So Vivian is off to Oklahoma University in the fall. She was accepted into the Naval ROTC program where she has a very significant scholarship. Simultaneously, she is going to be serving in the U.S. Marine Corps Reserves and studying aerospace engineering. So she is going to have her education almost entirely paid for. She will be able to serve our country, and she just created such a unique opportunity for herself.
And the final student story that we'll share with you today is James. James is a student that we had that took a number of our industrial technology courses, especially in metals and manufacturing, and really had an interest in being a welder. And so he completed the Career Launch A course, and I was able to set him up with an internship at Rosenbauer in Wyoming, where he was able to build fire trucks. We actually had 2 students there. What young person doesn't want to go build fire trucks, right? You know, it's kind of an interesting deal, but what's neat about that business and what's neat about it for a student like James is that they have so many different departments there that it takes to build a fire truck from start to finish, that they were able to actually set him up starting in their pumps division, where they build all the water pumps that go into the fire truck. And when they found out that he had this interest in welding, they were able to move him into some of those areas as well. So he was able to expand and find the right fit within their organization. He completed his 9-week internship. Rosenbauer hired him for, well, they hired him. I mean, they've employed him through the summer and into the fall. They really want to invest in him and provide him with the training and the schooling that he might need to continue to be an employee within their company. And so one of the other benefits of the Career Launch programming is I think it gives some of our local businesses access to some of our best students right away. And many of the ones on that list have chosen not only to invest in our students in terms of employment, but they've invested in them in future education and training that they're able to take with them as they move forward. So lots of different options for lots of different students. It's not about any one thing that's being done. I think it's about a combination of a lot of things that are being offered to them. Certainly Molly and I's goal is always to try to immerse as many students to take advantage of the opportunities that we have out there as possible, and we appreciate the support of this board and the district administration to allow us to do that. If you'd like to learn more, I know Molly handed out some brochures. There's a variety of links in that brochure. There's some on this last slide. And certainly you can reach out to us anytime to learn more. But with that, we can answer any questions that you might have.
Excellent presentation. I'm so excited. I would love to go back to high school. My one question was the Pathways Guide. Molly, I think you mentioned that. Is that a hard copy or is it online?
Yeah, great question. So we print enough hard copies for all of our incoming 9th grade families, so they receive one with the hope and the direction that it's a good idea to sit down at home and go through it and discuss it. And then our students in incoming 10th, 11th, and 12th, they go through the Pathway Guide during Ranger Connect during the weeks leading up to registration. And so they're working with the Pathway Guide, but they have access to the digital version.
I just have a comment, not a question. This whole program blows me away. I think it's one of the best things we do, I mean, for me personally. And the reason I say that is, at one point in my life, I wanted to be an electrician, got no support for it, had no idea what it did, and I said, forget that. So then I went on and went into marketing, and I went into business and did that just because it sounded good and I could make some money. And then after I retired, I went into teaching and subbing in the school system. and I found the love of my whole life. And so had this program existed back then, I think my whole pathway would have been so different than how it went. You know, luckily I ended up in about the happiest place I can be for the end. But anyway, so thank you so much for this, and it's just a great program. So kudos to you.
Well, this has certainly evolved tremendously. I just unpacking all that great information, Molly, just thinking at the beginning when you said, you know, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? How much money do you make? How does that correspond to, you know, when you're done in 4 years? That is so important. One question from me is, with the Zello and the Ranger Connect, so that's all online. And that quarter credit that they earn is for going online and kind of working through all that and diving into that information. And
The students spend 1 day a week in their Ranger Connect with their Ranger Connect teacher that's with them 9 through 12th grade. They have a series of slides that they go through each week with them, with activities that tie back into Zello. It's really intended that the kids aren't doing the work just then, but they get into Zello and they go back to it. It's almost like a Facebook for education. And you can refer back to that. They also keep their Zello accounts, correct me if I'm wrong, after they graduate. As long as they change their email, so it's not hooked to our email anymore, they can still have access to their Zello accounts as they move on. So they can go back,
For life.
pull documents that they added, you know, we asked them to do their transcripts and all that stuff.
so we didn't have that in 2015. When did we get that?
We started with Zello 2 years ago.
Yeah, this is year 2. We just finished year 2. So we're still kind of in the implementation and ramping up part. We want it to be very much kind of just a norm for them and a tool that they consistently use.
Molly, you have certainly grown this, and I love all your energy and positivity. And, I mean, everybody has, but I just want to say, do you touch hands with them, and when does that occur? In the Ranger Connect time, do you go in?
Yeah, so I'll stop in. I'll try to make the rounds to get in. It was harder this year because so much time in the Ranger Connect was fully online for a great portion of the year. But yeah, so I'll do a lot of roaming in the cafeteria at certain times of year, but then students will make appointments with me, and I just repeatedly let them know that whenever they'd like to meet, I have, you know, those frequent flyers that will meet with me 5, 8, 10 times, and then of course I'll have a lot of students that I'll never see, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm happy to meet with students and parents, and I feel like more and more parents are wanting to meet with me as well. So.
And they also have their deans that they can meet with, and Molly works directly with the deans, so the deans know all of this information as well. So it's definitely.
Yep.
That's just awesome. And then Jim, you blew me away. I always tell people we have 34 AP and CIS. And
It's growing, you know, we might lose one here or lose one there, but it grows, it seems like every year. They're not all University of Minnesota. We're spread over several different colleges. And those articulation courses are becoming more and more popular as the college system figures out how to give kids credit across their college system. So it's not pigeonholed just to Century or Pine Tech. But we're growing those certifications in college courses every year.
those certifications are amazing. I'm sorry, guys. One quick question, Mr. Mayor. The Department of Labor grant, do we apply for that every year?
So it's a 2-year grant.
Oh.
And so Molly and Jim applied for the first one, then I got on board, so that created some, the mechanism for me to come on board. And then Molly and Jim mostly, with some help from me, wrote the second one. So right now, our first grant is expiring on June 30th. And so we will have one more grant through the next fiscal year. But I think we have an intent to apply for another grant come fall, winter for another pathway area, because it really gives us some opportunity to infuse some resources into a specific pathway to launch it to the next point.
And one thing that we figured out, the Department of Labor does not want us going back to the same pathway or the same grant. So every time we go back, that's when we're adding different pathways. So it's a unique grant that we're adding to because they want us to build the pathway and then be able to support it through our own means. It's really not intended as a grant that's going to fund this forever. So at some point, we're going to have all of our pathways in still.
And then we had such a great celebration. I think Kate took a selfie when the governor came to Team Vantage, and that was all about the youth.
Correct. Yep, that was to celebrate the round 3 grant that we received, which was actually our second grant, which is we're currently administering right now.
Thank you, excellent report. I'm just getting goosebumps, just terrific.
Member Ray, did you have?
No, great presentation. I just so much appreciate the work you guys are doing. And makes me proud to be a part of this organization.
Member Luther?
Thank you. Again, great presentation, great program. I super appreciate that you break down some of the cultural barriers surrounding money and earning potential and what jobs make what money, and just actually talk dollar and cents with kids, because a lot of kids get all the way through college and they haven't even heard about a budget because it's just something we don't talk about. But just make it normal and people can learn about it and they can make real decisions because they have real information. And so I don't think it's ever too early to give age-appropriate information about finance. And the question though is, I know it's only been 3 years, but have you had any success stories of like this seriously gave the kid the boost and they came back and said, I rocketed through college, or I did great in my career, and thank you guys. I know there'll be more in the future, but do you have any good ones?
I still have a small group of students that reach out to me and keep in touch with me. And yeah, I mean, things are going well. They're maybe not reflective to say, yeah, that career pathway guy, like just really, but yeah, they're definitely kind of moving along their journey that they had established in high school. That's obviously very fun.
And I would say, I don't have specifics with names to it, but I met with Lee Sina today, who's the chair of the Community Scholarship Foundation. And 3 years ago, if we had to find students to give a scholarship to in our industrial tech area leading into manufacturing, it would have been hard pressed for us to do that. This year we had 3 or 4 scholarships that nobody applied for. And we were able to, through the work with Molly, Mike, our deans and our teachers, identify enough kids that they could actually interview and give those scholarships to. So we have more kids that want to go in there, but it goes back to that EOS stuff too, with our kids don't see themselves going into manufacturing careers as eligible for money. They think I'm doing this and it's not the cool thing to do or whatever, and that story's changing. That story's changing, and there is a lot of money out there for students going into the manufacturing industry and those other career and tech ed fields, and it's our job to get the kids excited and see themselves in applying for that. So for this year, that would be my story, but there were 3 phenomenal ones.
Absolutely, and graduates, but I just hope that it definitely helps them launch pad out of college, but I would be really curious in 10 years how many of them say like, I really feel like that was the boost, or a kid saying I didn't think I could, but Ms. Bonnet did, and coming back.
Well, my son, 2018 grad, and they also, that was just the start when you started, Molly, that year. And I wish we would have had you earlier. We only got the little tip at the end of the career fair and things like that. But 4 of the students my son lives with are all 2 are Carlson. Dylan is also U of M. And, 4 of them are U of M. And they're graduating next semester early. They all had AP courses. So that's a really great success story for those 4. One of the students is going longer, he's going to get a double major. So he's going the full year for his 4th year. No 5-year college students, so I'm happy with that for financial reasons, but just a great boost. And like I said, I wish you would have been a little earlier to the party there, but they did get such a great education. And I think just starting early in that 9th grade and really getting kids plugged in and given the opportunity to see what they like, that was something that I don't think we had the option to before. And now it's just such a great pathway for the future. So then when they get out of school, they know what they want. And I was gonna ask about the medical. I know you said is the U of, do you have like Fairview kind of working, like any shadowing for like physicians or anything in the medical world? How is that working out?
Yeah, so different industries, depending upon what types of opportunities there are for students, are going to be different. Medical is somewhat challenging because of some of the training that you need to work with patients, the data privacy that's involved in working with patients. But we definitely do have a lot of connections with, say, like Fairview for definitely the job shadowing, the mentoring, the career exploration days as a tour site. And especially for our students who are getting their certified nursing assistant certification, we have opportunities for them at some of our assisted living facilities and different places like that where they can employ those students with that credential. So it might not, none of this is necessarily about we're going to be able to put them where the end result is, but we can, Molly and I kind of refer to it as the bypass lane. We can accelerate a little bit so that they can get around the traffic and that they can get a clear path for whatever their next step might be. And so these are not necessarily the end points, but they're a growth point for whatever the next step might be for them.
Even just the shadowing piece, just to kind of see the day in a life kind of thing. Because you really, like you say, you don't know until you see. So it's great to open kids' eyes and give them the opportunities, but thank you.
For just a quick add-on, for our students that are interested in medical school, we have a great partner and district parent, Dr. Anton Rohan, who is a cardiovascular anesthesiologist at Regions, and he has been just so generous with his time. Whenever I have a student who is interested in the med school path, he will either meet with a small group or with that individual student, and I always tell them this is like the special sauce recipe you're getting, because he tells them exactly what they need to start thinking about as an undergrad to make medical school more possible.
I would just add this emphasis, and Jim and Melly and Mike touched on this. This is driven by and supported by the strategic plan, which is your work, and the passing of our 2018 referendum that supports financially both Mike and Molly and this work and the capacity that happens. This is clearly a model program, and most importantly, a program that significantly benefits our kids and families. So this is a hallmark program that drives our high school, and as you'll see tonight, and approved hopefully tonight, the middle school redesign that feeds right into this and engaging our middle school 17.
Thank you.
And before you go, I just want to say I really appreciate the Carpenters Union Apprentice. Great work, great presentation, and it really is great to see all this emphasis on careers in industry and tech, because there are a lot of great middle-class opportunities in industry, tech, and trades, and often they were overlooked. So thank you all. Thank you for the presentation. All right, with that, we will move to positive happenings. Who wants to start?
I just want to say I went to the our Everyone Belongs Innovation Lab with our state demographer, Susan Bauer, and yeah, it was a really good evening, and just another one of those times we get together and we're trying to increase our agricultural understanding, where we're going as a state, and figure out how we can better serve everybody in this district. And the other positive happening I want to say is that every time I drive by and see something new out there, it's just so positive to me. I guess one more thing is that the headlines in the Forsyth Times was Forsyth Schools doing fine financially, and I just thought that was such a beautiful statement about the promises that we've made over the last 20 years, that if the public pass these levies and they pass that bond to get this reconstruction done, that we'd be in a better place as a school district. And we are, right? Is that we are in such a better place now, and a headline like that would never have happened 15 years ago. It would have been something that we're scrambling, we're laying off, we're doing all this stuff, and instead, the public trusted us, they gave us their money, and we made a bunch of promises, and we've kept those promises, and I really like that headline.
I just wanted to mention graduation and a big shout out and a great job for Jim Caldwell, Principal Caldwell. I thought the graduation was wonderful except for the heat, obviously, a little warm, but I thought it was great. And it was wonderful to see all the students there, and I congratulate the class of 2021 for being there after everything they had to go through to get there. So that was a great opportunity, and we all got to attend in person, which was a great deal. I attended the Northeast Metro Golf Tournament on a couple Tuesdays ago. They had 100 participants in the tournament, so raised some money for their foundation. And last of all, I just want to play off what Rob said, and that's the track. I drive by here a lot because I live over in this neighborhood. I drive by the field and I see the football field going in and the track going in. I had two kids who played soccer on that field, and I mean, they would kill to come back and be able to play on a new field like we're going to have. So it's a great thing.
Okay. I was just going to mention graduation too. That was just an awesome night. I was telling Renee that that's my proudest moment as a school board member, just seeing them come across that stage and the look in their eye and just to hear all their names. It's like, wow, just really, it was wonderful. I love the speeches too. I thought they were all very different, but very well written and also good. I wanted to mention that the Career Launch newsletter tonight, that was a positive happening for me to read that. I've never seen that. I watched it several times, showed it to my husband. We just said, wow, it's amazing what we do at Forest Lake High School with getting students ready for their futures. It's just such a positive happening. Also wanted to mention the Equity Innovation Lab. That was great hearing the news from Montford. Just really dialed in on certain areas. I'm hoping that superintendent will talk about that later. More about it. And then I just want to give a shout out that pop-up libraries are being sponsored this summer, and Summerfield Park had theirs last night, so, or yesterday during the day, so the neighbors were all down there and came back saying that was just a lot of fun and good time. And that's about all for me.
Anyone else?
Jeff was there also to be volunteered at the senior night all-night party. Very fun, very well attended. Prizes and donations were amazing. We could go, ooh, somebody gets a grill, they get a kayak. It was awesome. So well done. Wow. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to echo that. TVs, fridges, I mean, like mini fridges for dorm rooms, right? They had some great prizes, and it's always so much fun to see those kids having such a great time after graduation. The energy they have coming across the stage just continues all night long. I don't know how I stay up till 5:30 in the morning. Saturday's always rough, but it's great fun. Anyone else? We'll move on. We've got reports. Any workshops or conferences? Heading into summer. Member Tyson, do you have a City of Forest Lake report?
I just have a little update. They resumed all in-person meetings. They left the option to attend the forum remotely. That was interesting. Very exciting. The 4th of July parade is on, so we have all these things we can do in person again. And then I wanted to mention too, the Arts in the Park in collaboration with our community ed is really looking fun, and you register for community ed, and the courses are only $5. So I did see people down in the park. I think it was some kids creative. It looked like a lot of fun. And that concludes my report.
Member Tyson, Superintendent report, Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Earlier this week, a parent shared with me a post from the Scandia Neighborhood app showing a graphic image of hate speech using the N-word and a swastika painted on a vehicle in the Scandia community. This despicable act is condemned in the strongest way, and the community must stand together in condemning this and all acts of hate in our community. As a district, we have implemented programs to address and stop any hate speech or racial targeting within our schools and amongst our students. We have come a long way in this work, but we know there's still much work to do. In addition, we have joined with the YMCA and our local communities on a collaborative effort called Everyone Belongs that seeks to end bias and prejudice within our community and create a more welcoming culture for all. You can find information about this project at the Everyone Belongs website, specifically everyonebelongsfl.org. This project has already sponsored several free community learning sessions and conversations on implicit bias, inclusion and equity, and our community's changing demographics. And we are actively looking for more ways to continue to engage our community in this work. As mentioned earlier, the athletic field project is moving along in a very exciting way. We remain on schedule and on budget with this project. And by the start of the fall season, we'll be hosting events on the new field with bleachers facing away from the setting sun and with a new concession stand with indoor restroom facilities. By the spring, we will be hosting the first track meet in over 25 years. Please let me emphasize that this project will not raise property taxes in the community, as we're able to utilize additional funding sources and take advantage of an expanding tax base. On June 15th, as Member Rayfield and Member Tyson indicated, the Everyone Belongs Project hosted a presentation by state demographer Susan Brower on the demographic trends in the Forest Lake area. This presentation was titled Our Community Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. We had over 40 participants in the virtual presentation. The presentation will be, the recording of that will be posted on the Everyone Belongs website, along with the slides that she presented. The biggest takeaway from the session was our community, to nobody's surprise, is aging. It's happening across Minnesota and across the country. And I believe it was 2023, 2024, the aging population entering retirement will exceed school-age children. So when we get the information from Hazel Reinhardt on our demographic study 2 years ago, and the school-age children population entering kindergarten is going down. This was further supported by this presentation. So it's important for us to understand our demographic is going down, all the more need to be competitive with our neighbors, charter schools. Programs like we saw tonight are precisely the kind of work that will keep our kids and draw in kids from neighboring districts. Summer school is off to a fantastic start. Students started on Monday and will continue through July 30th. We have 502 students enrolled in grades K through K6, 70 students in grades 7 and 8, and 320 students in grades 9 through 12, for a total of over 1,000 students in summer school. The opportunity this summer for summer school was to invite any student who might have experienced learning loss. Any student identified by a teacher is eligible for summer school, hence the larger numbers. The state is supporting that with additional resources for summer school. The district is hosting a vaccination clinic for our students and community members 12 years of age and older on July 16th, with the second dose August 6th at the high school. Information was provided to families earlier today. And in addition, Washington County is hosting vaccination clinics in Forest Lake, and the community can visit our website for more information and details. The school board self-evaluation in-service is scheduled for next month on Thursday, July 15th. This is our mid-month meeting, and we are scheduled to start at 5 p.m. and end at around 8 p.m. I will have information from Gail Gilman from MSBA prior to the meeting for you to review in preparation for this in-service. And lastly, this is Diane Georgie's last school board meeting as director of teaching and learning. I'm sure she'll still come, and just for entertainment, board meetings. She and Carolyn Latati will be retiring at the end of the month. Both of these leaders have left an indelible mark on our district, and we are far better for their service to students, families, and staff. And I wish them an incredible retirement as they have earned this next chapter in their life. And with that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Massey. With that, we will move to approve the consent agenda. Does anybody have a motion?
So moved.
A motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll move on to action items. 8.1, FLAS staff retirement notice. Dr. Massey. Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Tyson?
We are an 8-1, right?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, we see Catherine Massey on there after 19 years. Wow. And that's wonderful that she can enjoy retirement. Right time for all those weddings. So congrats to her. And I also want to mention Robin Bigelow. Miss Robin worked 36 years in her early childhood program. And I had the good fortune of working in Miss Robin and Miss Gaffey's classroom, and, you know, you couldn't find anybody, she's just a quintessential early childhood teacher that's nurturing, understanding of all those developmental stages, and she's just an exceptional early childhood teacher, so she will deeply be missed. So I'm hoping we can find some more Robins and Miss Gaffey's out there, so that's all I want to say.
I did tell Kate that she's supposed to give a speech. She didn't believe me.
I mean, we could remove it from the agenda and allow it.
Retire.
Maybe the next one?
Madam Chair, can I just go back one and mention Mr. Miller who's leaving us? He was a phenomenal educator and administrator also, so I'm sorry to see him go. I had the pleasure of working with him some this past year, and he was always there as if I mentally called to him, just turned up when needed, so.
No, I was just gonna say also, give Kate, wonderful retirement. Forest Lake Elementary was my home base. She was there many, many years, so I got to see her a lot. And she's just a wonderful lady, and I just wish her a lot of pickleball fun. She likes her pickleball, and enjoy her pool and all the weddings. She's well earned her retirement.
Any further discussion? I would like to say we have lost a lot of combined talent this year to retirement. When you start looking at the years added up, it is just a ton of talent. And I look forward to all the new ideas that new folks are going to bring in, which is also going to be exciting. So with that, any further discussion? All those in favor of approving A1, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. We'll move to A2, donations. Member Kettle?
This month, the district had a total of $3,715 of donations. We had donations ranging all the way from $100 to $1,500. We would like to thank the Hugo American Legion Post 620 for 2 different donations, the Forest Lake FFA alumni for a donation, Melissa Schlemmer for an $800 donation, the CAF of America for their donation, Target Corporation, Martin Pevsner Engineering PA, who donated $1,500 for Forest Lake area school staff back to school programs, Anderson Kraus Construction Company, which also donated $500 to the same program, Forest Lake area school staff back to school program, and $25 to Signature Orthodontics to Scandia Elementary. So on behalf of the district, we would like to thank those organizations, and I would like to make a motion that we approve the contributions and permit their uses designated by the donors. Again, thank you from the district.
We have a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing nothing further, all those in favor of accepting donations signify by aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We move to 8.3, the middle school course of study redesign. Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll have JP Jacobson here from Nashville to but this will be a follow-up presentation on the middle school redesign, taking us right to the heart of the actual changes after an elaborate process that brought a great deal of creativity and input and consensus around this big shift that, as you saw earlier tonight, aligns with the great work happening at the high school. And tonight we'll be asking for your approval of this plan. JP, take it away.
JP, we can't hear you.
It's not muted on here, is it on there? It should come through the speakers.
you'll have a resignation.
No, a retirement. It's not like a real vote in case they stay.
You have to talk to them,
Give it
yeah.
give it a try.
A little bit.
Try again.
One more time.
All right, how am I coming through?
That's perfect.
Well, perfect. Well, perfect, and thank you for letting me join you from Nashville. I don't have any music to share, but I do have some exciting news to share regarding the work happening at the middle school. So I want to thank Superintendent Massey for that introduction, Chair Peterson and members of the board. This is a joy to join you and talk about the continued work happening at our academic level at the middle school. I think it's inarguable that one of the hallmarks of any thriving district is one that has a strategic plan that is alive, that is being followed on a daily basis and driving the work of the leaders of the school district. And just as Jim Caldwell mentioned earlier, this strategic plan in Focus Area 3 is driving a lot of the work that you've heard us talk about in regards to the middle school design. And in two particular areas around creating a gateway experiences that couple with our high school program already in place, that being the career pathway wheel, and having kids really taste everything on the career pathway wheel while in the 7th and 8th grade, allowing them to make informed experience choices when heading into 9th grade. And then two, while in middle school, get a sense of what are some of the career options out there today and possibly tomorrow, so that when students are learning and doing their schoolwork today, they see relevance in it for when they prepare for careers in life outside of school or after school. A couple of just highlights that I'm going to go over. One of the things that we knew is we wanted to create a school where students were no longer primarily recipients of information and ideas, but they were gaining those that knowledge through learning experiences. We believe strongly that all people learn best through experience. And when students move through the model that you're going to see again in the second year, that they will be learning through experiences that touch on each of these different bullets. That's how we want to design not just our coursework, but the way that the transfer of information and ideas happens on a daily basis when we have 7th and 8th graders coming through our system. And this will drive a lot of the coursework that we're going to be doing here when we, if approved by the board meeting, by the board tonight. Here is our 2-year academic proposed course of study. As you can see, it still has a full year experience in what we call our core content areas: math, science, social studies, and English and language arts. But there you'll also see in the 7th and 8th grade where our career experiences thrive and live. That is the buckets of courses from our areas of interest within our career pathway wheel that, again, Jim talked about, Molly talked about, and Mike talked about earlier. Now students are experiencing them all in the middle level. And then you'll see in the 7th and 8th grade how we are able to include and meet some new requirements in the arts, where students are required to take 2, and we have to offer at least 3 areas in the arts when in the 7th and 8th grade. And so that's how you'll see how we're doing that there. As well as the committee work really felt passionate that our jobs as educators and as the educational system is to not only prepare students for careers and gainful employment after graduation, but also to teach them the skills and ideas necessary to live healthy lives outside of school. And so you'll see there in the 7th grade what we call a healthy living beyond the careers course. All of this will have elective options in the 8th grade year as well, and we see those as either second level electives in the career pathways taken in 7th grade, or parallel elective options that kids just know that they are interested in when they look through our registration guide. Here are some of the high level course renderings that we talked about before. how we describe what those career pathways experiences might look like in the 7th and 8th grade. And if approved tonight, the task of teaching and learning will be to sit down with a committee of people to begin to add greater detail to what these courses, the actual activities that students will do as they go through any one of the career pathway experiences. And these tangential coursework that we have around 21st century skills and healthy living and beyond careers. So I think some of you have heard me present 2 or 3 times on this already through committee work and our June 3rd board meeting. I think everybody's seen it at least once. It is exciting work, quite honestly. I think, I heard Member Corcoran say earlier that she wishes some of this was in place at the high school level when her son graduated just a few years ago. Well, what I hope to have everybody thinking is, or feeling, is that they wish their own children had been able to go through the middle school level program once this program is fully functional up and off the ground. We think it's the right thing for our district. We think it's the right thing for our community, and it really creates great synergy and flow from our 7th and 8th grade middle school feeding into what is already a really high quality program at the high school. So with that, I'm open to answering any questions related to the model or the process up until this point or going forward.
Questions? Member Luther?
Thank you. And I have listened to this presentation a couple times and I really like it. I like the direction you're going, and my first instinct the first time I heard it was you're taking away a lot of choices in the beginning, but then upon reflection, I agree that having them taste everything really counts. And it's more like we don't need to pick a career in 7th grade. And that's almost how it felt like when you had to focus so early on something, and they don't have the information in 7th grade to pick. So now they have to take their tech, and they have to take their art, and they have to take their computer, and they'll be better informed by 8th grade and definitely 9th grade to know, I really liked that and I didn't like that so much. So they've at least tried them all. My one real question is, moving forward, you said there's a group that's working on this. Does it include students and parents?
It might be. We might also be partnering with local industry business owners to add to a group like that. So parents and students have been involved in the process through when we opened the middle school, and we created the original scope and idea for this, and during our strategic plan. And we met with students during the process itself as to putting together what this overall idea was. We had a feedback group of students from the high school who said a lot of what we just said earlier. They wish they had gone through a program like this. But yeah, we're going to be bringing input in from those groups as well. And what I'd like to also say, Member Luthner, is that we might be test driving some of this curriculum even yet this year, and getting feedback from this fall, and feedback from students as they go through it during the day in their 7th and 8th grade year. So yeah, we will certainly find ways to embed feedback from parents and students as well.
2 out of 3 of mine.
And to your other point, Member Luthner, I'm so glad that you mentioned that question around choice. What we're also going to do as part of this is students are going to see greater choice within each of those career pathway courses. So the projects, the things that they research, the things that they present on, who they work with in groups, that is where they're gonna really benefit from showing through their own passions and interests how they are going to do and meet a lot of the standards as it relates to these courses. The courses themselves are going to have a lot of choice pathways built within them.
Well, I just have one question, JP. Can you refresh my memory? When does this roll out?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So we are going for full implementation for the fall of 2022. So not this fall. The plan is through July and August and into the beginning of the school year is to start to create the courses. for this year, test drive some of the curriculum as I just mentioned, even this year. But that career pathway experience, that course of study will start the fall of 2022.
Thank you, and I just want to add, your team did a phenomenal job. This redesign has got just so many wonderful features, like you've already said. You know, it aligns with our strategic plan, with creating that gateway to the high school, just all that collaboration there. And I just feel like every middle schooler from 100 miles around should be going to Fort Lake Area Middle School. This is really, really good work, so thank you for that.
And what I would add to that is I think that what also will really be exciting to parents and to students in the 5th and 6th grade is when they begin to cast their gaze on what will 7th and 8th grade look like for them. We have a clear course of study, a clear sequence of learning experiences that people will say, oh, that is what I get to do when I'm in middle school. And now I see how that really connects and serves as that bridge to high school. When we talk about the middle school being those formative years where people figure out what they like and what they're interested in, maybe and sometimes for the very first time, we think as a design team, this revised course of study really is going to help us do a better job of that with our middle school kids going forward.
Yes, and I think we've all spoke about, you know, my daughters, it was not that experience you have now in this new redesign. So I think this is just a really positive move.
I think that's all the questions. Oh, did you have them?
No, I was just gonna say it's great, and what I like is just that kids will have that choice, and they will get to see what they like. So, you don't know until you know. That's my new saying, because you don't know. So, giving them that opportunity is, you know, maybe kids would, because even my children too, going through, they didn't really know what they liked until they was almost graduating from high school. So it just gives them those few extra years to really develop who they are. So I thank you for all the hard work, and that futuristic thinking is what I think it is. So thank you.
Thank you, JP. With that, do we have a motion on A3?
So
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would just recommend to JP, when the kids go to sleep, to head down to Robert's Western World.
Let's go get some coffee boots.
Other than that.
Hearing no further discussion, Member Clerk, would you please say roll call?
Member Ketto.
Aye.
Member Ketto votes aye. Member Olson.
Aye.
Member Rayfield.
Aye.
Member Tyson. Aye. Member Peterson.
Aye.
Member Luther votes aye. Member Corcoran.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. We'll move to A4. Thank you, JP. Appreciate your time. Have fun in Nashville. And we will move to A4, immunization requirements. Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tonight we're asking for your approval of the recommended updates for policy 525. And the only update you'll see here is an update to the MDH form related to the required vaccination for our students. With that, the administration recommends.
We have a motion on A4.
So moved.
Second.
Has a motion and a second. Discussion? I would just like to mention that this does not involve the coronavirus in any way, shape, or form, and this is just a standard update to a policy. Just for those watching. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Member Clerk, would you please say roll call?
Member Olson.
Aye.
Member Rayfield.
Aye.
Member Tyson. Aye. Member Peterson.
Aye.
Member Luther votes aye. Member Corcoran.
Aye.
Member Ketto.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. 8.5, participation of private school students in District 831 programs, policy 527, Dr. Massey.
The policy committee has spent time reviewing this policy and updating, looking for necessary and appropriate updates. At this time, the policy committee is recommending no changes to the policy, and with that, administration recommends approval.
We have a motion to approve A5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Member Rayfield.
Aye.
Member Tyson.
Aye.
Member Peterson.
Aye.
Member Luther votes aye. Member Bergeron.
Aye.
Member Kettle.
Aye.
Member Olson.
Motion passes. We'll move to 8.6, resolution approving long-term facilities maintenance revenue plan for intermediate district 916. Director Martini.
Thank you, Board Chair and members of the school board. This is the second time we've seen this. It's $9,668 out of a whole spend of $142,000 across all the intermediate district subscribers. We just ask that you approve the resolution for our share of their LTFM money.
We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just have a question. Larry, do all member districts, obviously they all vote on it, do they all have to approve it to make this go?
They do, and I've never seen a year where that has failed. They're not substantial amounts. We'll be talking in the next item about millions.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
difference.
Member Tyson.
Larry, I have a quick question. How long have the intermediates had LTFM?
That's a great question. I don't know, but it's been more than 5 years,
It's been all that long, 5 years, I think.
at least 5 years.
Yeah. I know, yeah. Good.
Any further discussion?
Question, how is the percent figured? Is it by students enrolled?
Yeah,
Okay.
the attachment A is, I think, based off of ADM.
Seeing no further discussion, Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Member Tyson.
Aye.
Member Peterson.
Aye.
Member Luther votes aye. Member Bergeron.
Aye.
Member Kettle.
Aye.
Member Olson. And Member Rayfield.
Motion passes. We'll move to 8.7, resolution approving alternative facilities maintenance revenue plan for Forest Lake area schools.
So we have, as attachments in board book, a statement of assurances that's been required for quite some time. That was just executed by Dr. Massey today. The long-term facilities maintenance revenue or alternative facilities revenue spreadsheet has about 15 columns of numbers, 60 rows. If you want to dig into that detail, it's there. We won't be submitting to MDE for quite some time. It's due July 31st. On the revenue side, it's got a few, or on the expenditure side, it's got a few less rows, but we're talking 15 columns of numbers. So as far as what the plan holds, it's got FY23 as the first year, and that's the 22-23 school year. We're going to be talking about that in our tax process this fall, ultimately approving that in December. And then it will be for the 22-23 school year. Now, we're a 1B district now, or a 1A district instead of only long-term facility maintenance revenue. So we're going to be budgeting about $3.4 million in FY24, $3.9 million, FY25, $4.1 million. The plan right now is then to increase that to about $5.1 million, but you'll have opportunity each year to revise that. So with that type of increase, we don't think taxes, property taxes for our residents will be impacted any differently than they were the year before. That's pretty exciting. But I've put up here the projects that we're looking at that comprise the bulk of that. Now keep in mind for FY22, not currently under consideration, but the 21-22 school year beginning July 1st, we're going to be finishing out the project at the high school. We're going to be finishing out the Central Learning Center. We've got some asphalt work to be done. We've already bid for the Education Center roofing. Those are going to comprise the FY22 project. The bulk of the money for FY23 would be item number 1. And so for time beyond that, we can begin looking at dehumidification in the varsity gym area. I'm aware that that's a hot topic, and we knew that was even before tonight. So we're meeting with our engineer next week, and Chad Martin, you've met him before, from Martin Pevsner Engineering. We're going to discuss some potential solutions. We're going to discuss the possibility of some of those federal funds to possibly address it. So unfortunately, I don't have any answers to you or for you this evening, but I wanted you to know that Dr. Massey and I were responsive to issues you brought up and attempting to be preemptive. We'd ask that you approve our long-term facilities maintenance submission. It is those attachments A1, 2, and 3. It's the budget for revenue, the budget for expenditures, and the detail is in board book. I can stand for questions.
I have a question, Larry. I mean, if something came up that wasn't in this order of, funding or what you're gonna fix, can it be changed? Can things be adjusted as time goes on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You could, if you desired, to move anything around at any point in time. We have always stated when we approve a budget, when we approve a plan, that it can be amended, and it frequently is. One thing I didn't mention, we're going to be talking to some folks about how to apply some coatings to Forest View's exterior. I know we talked about that at the June meeting, when this was a new business item. So that also is that's underway for analysis. I don't have any pricing, but we're exploring that.
Thank you. I just want to make sure.
So if this changes then, what's in it?
This hasn't changed from what you've seen, and I don't plan on changing it. What I plan to do is come back with a temporary plan for how we can dump cold air into your varsity gym and see if federal dollars qualify during either FY22 or FY23 to do that project. Otherwise, it would be scheduled for FY24 at this point.
Okay, and then what about the Forest View fixing up that exterior?
That would be a minimal expense, under $100,000 that we could fit within these millions.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good to know. And then Larry, another question that you'll love. How long have we had alt facilities? Because we took forever to get that. And we just kept going, oh, remember Rob?
This is the first time we're making a 1A submission. We heard last year during tax season that it came in code. We didn't get a certificate. There wasn't a ta-da moment, but I created one with the email for you folks. I think last December when I said, Mr. Moe from MD&E has characterized us as a 1A district. And that's code. For finally qualifying, I think it was a 12-year run over multiple superintendents to get that accomplished.
Yeah, it's just been like cloud nine hearing that, music to my ears. So.
And that's why we're keeping a portion of the Central Learning Center. If that were fully demolished, we would not qualify.
And I would add, embedded in this plan is our commitment to keep up and maintain the investment we invested with the 2015 bond referendum. You recall during the campaign, the concern of that accusation that we had all these buildings, but we didn't invest in keeping them up to speed. Now we got $150 million of cost. Well, with this plan, we can keep HVAC, mechanical systems, roofing structures up to speed so that we're not faced with a significant project many years down.
Right, and that's the hole we tried to dig out of for many years, and now we're out of it, and now we have all facilities, so.
And assuming the legislature doesn't change anything, because they have often changed things and not to the best outcome.
Very true.
Any other questions? What's your pleasure with 8.7?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second, discussion? Hearing none, Member Clerk, would you please take roll call?
Member Peterson?
Aye.
Member Luther votes aye. Member Corcoran?
Aye.
Member Kettle?
Aye.
Member Olson? Member Rayfield?
Aye.
And Member Tyson? Aye.
We'll move on to
Yes, thank you.
8.8, the monthly building subplan termination. Dr. Massey.
Thank you. In order to get ourselves through this very challenging year, where substitutes were very scarce and hardly available, we implemented this plan to place a somewhat of a longer-term substitute in each of our elementaries to be available on an ongoing basis to fill a sub need. They were invaluable this year. And I extend a debt of gratitude to each of them for their work. But as we sit here tonight in closer proximity without masks, this is an indication that we're moving into a far better window, and we anticipate next year being very different. With that in mind, we are looking to end that substitute plan of longer-term, more permanent subs in our elementaries. And with that, administration would ask for approval.
What's your pleasure with 8.8?
Move to approve 8.9.
On 8.8.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on 8.8. Any discussion?
I just had a question, actually. So, did it work as planned? Did they did they actually work every day? Or were there days where they were just there?
It worked, especially in the beginning, we phased them in, but when we were into early winter, late fall, they were needed, and we moved some from one building to another. So some buildings needed two, and if one building was low, they were pretty mobile. Yes, they were working.
And is there any, I know we're moving forward with expanding it, but looking towards the future, is it worth having an extra teacher for consistency to know the kids, to really be in that building, sort of an extra hand that the kids know in this capacity?
There is some benefit to that, but we do have regular subs that, to a degree, provide that for our schools. It's a cost-benefit analysis. These are substantially higher cost to the district. If we can accomplish our goal, meet our need with more short-term subs or on-call subs, that might be a better way.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, Member Clerk, would you please take roll call?
Member Luther votes aye. Member Corcoran?
Aye.
Member Ketto?
Aye.
Member Olson? Aye. Member Rayfield?
Aye.
Member Tyson?
Aye.
And Member Peterson?
Aye. Motion passes. We'll move to 8.9, student participation in school board business. Dr. Langston.
All right, I have provided for your request from the last board meeting some additional considerations for student representation at the board level. I think, well, first of all, I would point you to the table provided, which shows surrounding nearby districts and their experience with a student representative at the board table. So you can see highlighted in blue districts that currently or recently have had a student rep formally seated at the school board table. So that's a reference for you to see how that plays out in nearby districts. The next document provides essentially two options for consideration. One would be to expand student engagement in school board work. And that would be through this concept, through expanding student involvement at the school board committee level. Currently, we have student reps on the policy committee. We do not have reps on our other committees. This proposal would bring 1 to 2 students into those committees and serve in the capacity of pretty deep engagement, because they would be a regular member of that committee, participating fully in conversation and discussion. In addition to that, I provided a framework for a student report to the board as well. I identified leadership committees, student council, NHS, FFA, peer leaders, as formal leadership committees. Not that other students couldn't be identified. We're drawing from leadership committees at the secondary level and even student councils at the elementary, if we so choose to do that. Could be a regular report to the board. And they would provide a report from their experience specific to their school, high school, middle school, or elementary. So it's a framework, and if that's the direction the board would prefer to go, I can work out with more detail what that might look. The second option to consider would be an actual student school board representative at the school board table. And I provided some information around the selection and appointment process. I'm not so sure I stated here, but we currently do not have a policy as such. I think we would want to do that. If we go down this road, the policy committee starts in September, October. Earliest we could start that would be following that approval, November, December, or gets deferred for the next year, starting in September. There are options there. There's different ways we can identify, nominate, appoint students for that role and the selection process. So I don't want to lock that in with here's the specific way this has to be done. There are ways to do that, but give some consideration here. I envision the term, if the board chooses to go this way, to be a one-year term, where the student could reapply or renominate him or herself for continuation. And then directly from the MSBA guidance, I pulled some relevant components that they provide by way of consideration. See those in front of me. So I present this to the board, Mr. Chair, for the board to consider and discuss both of those actions and provide further direction for administration.
Okay, well, this time I guess we'll open it up for discussion. Member Kettle.
After today, after the presentation that the high school made about career launch, and knowing that with graduation we had almost 500 students graduate as seniors, I want to see us support the second proposal to have somebody actually on this board. I know we talked about this a lot at the last meeting, and I know there's some history that I'm not involved in with how this may have happened in the past, but this can be a career launch. I can't believe that out of almost 500 students, there wouldn't be one student that would take this as an opportunity to launch a career in either government or some other career in politics or otherwise. So I really want to see us go this way, I think. I think this is the fairest way. And there are organizations, as I understand it, MSBA said there's something like 100 school districts that do this. I don't know that, I haven't heard of problems. And as I said, I attended a session on it. I didn't hear any problems from the people attending the session that this presented any big problems for the council. So.
Thank you. And we did discuss it at the last meeting. I actually don't see these two things as mutually exclusive. Like, it's not like we can't just have one and not the other. There could be kids on every single committee, as far as I know, in the past, current, future. So there's nothing to say that a peppy 4th grader or a 12th grader, and in doing the levy, there were 11th and 12th graders that were at every single community meeting and spoke every single time. And so there are kids that maybe they just don't know about it. So I'd love to see some outreach on the committee membership. And the student report to the school board, I think, would be a fantastic idea to hear in their own words, and that rotating through schools and groups would be fantastic. I'd love to hear from them. But both those things are different than a seat at the table. It's just like there are lots of committee members that enjoy their roles on committees, but it is different being a school board member. And I truly support this for the same reasons that Member Ketto said. This is a launch pad. Even if they find out that they hate sitting at the table, that's really valuable information to find out at 17 or 18 and not after they've been elected because they think this was a great idea and they run and then they're stuck for 2 or 4 years in a position and can't serve their community. So make your mistakes young, it's fine. I really think that we should at least offer the opportunity, and that's where I only see gain in adding this option for our students. And looking at who does it and who doesn't, I mean, I'd like to be with the people who do and add our names to that list. Those are some respected school districts that I know some of our people look at and choose them. And don't go here and go there.
Well, I think that I'd like to have more student involvement, of course. I know how busy high school students are with school and extra activities. I know my kids were always busy. It depends on the interest. I mean, you could pick each thing, but I think I'd love to get them on committees first. I mean, let them see what, even to show up once a month to do that on a committee. And if they have to miss, then, then it's not like missing a meeting. It's a different kind of thing. So I like the Mounds View one. I mean, we can sit and pick apart everything, but I guess it'd just be the interest we'd have to see if someone's really interested. I hate to do all this planning and then not even have a student interested. You just don't know, I guess. That's, Jim and Molly, you guys know the students and you would kind of know. But I think just getting kids on committees just to learn what the school district's all about. I mean, you could get someone from an accounting or finance on the finance committee. You could have someone from communications, definitely in the communication world. Buildings and grounds, someone that's looking at construction management or anything in the trades area. What a great opportunity that would be. I mean, you have just a lot of opportunity, but to get kids to commit, that's really going to be the key, and get the right people. So that's where I'd like to start. It doesn't mean it wouldn't grow into be more, but just starting to get people on committees is what I'd like to do. That's what I think.
Any other discussion? Member Olson?
I agree with Julie, but I would also not be opposed to us getting a policy in place and then see what maybe next year, maybe no one will be interested. The year after that, if we have something in place, we bring it back each year. Oh, look, there are 5 people interested now, so let's move forward with something so that we can make this happen down the road.
Any other discussion? Member Tyson?
Okay. Well, for me, looking at this information, kind of dialing into it, there's 9 districts and 6 don't have anything and 3 do. And I guess from my perspective, I'm not looking at it as, wow, this could be a problem, let's not do it, because I do see it as a big opportunity. So I am a little conflicted, but I do feel that we have to gauge interest, and we can't kind of put the cart before the horse. And also for me, I kind of have it in 2 baskets. I see one opportunity with the expanded student engagement to hear from a lot of voices in a lot of groups and have them be on committees, like Member Corcoran said, actually looking at blueprints and looking at construction projects. I mean, doing that interaction and that actual kind of getting comfortable with staff, getting to know who's in the meeting, the district leaders, just kind of plunking somebody right into the other opportunity, I think would be an arduous learning experience and orientation, and then there is no mention of mentoring after that. So I really would like to see them set up for success and not just doing it because, it's a scholarship and we think it's a great idea. I'd like to build up what's on, who can be on committees and get comfortable with how many we're getting and focus on recruiting with that. So I just see that I can't make that leap yet, but like Member Olson said, maybe down the road, let's see how it works out and maybe bring it back.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of a mixed bag with what the different schools are doing. And, quite honestly, I don't think that having a student representative on the board, to me, is the best way to get the students engaged in school board activity and decision making, right? But on the other hand, too, it's always fun to try something new and see how it works. And kind of shake it up a little bit. I personally do believe, though, that I think it's critical that we hear what the students are seeing, going through, and I think that having a standard report that a student representative would give, to me that seems like the best way to get the students engaged. I mean, quite honestly, any student could come and speak on any board item right now, right, and before a meeting. But it's a kind of a formal thing where we're inviting the students to come and tell us what you think. I think would kind of formalize it and get them thinking, hey, this is the thing we're thinking about, and we want to come before the board and talk about it, right? And so they could be much more free form. If they were actually on the board itself, tonight they would have been limited to speaking just about application to the Department of Education for the bond. They have to be just answering on our regular agenda stuff, right? Which, you know, that's, I mean, like maybe they have an opinion on the school course of study, but donations, immunization, participation in private school, resolution of long-term facilities, resolution approving alternate facilities, these are critical issues to us, right? Because we know about all the history and stuff that's gone into it. But for a student, I think they'd rather come forward and say, you know, the bullying thing's not working right at the high school, or this isn't working right. So that's kind of my, like I say, I'm not you know, if we had a student representative, I'm sure it'd be fine. I mean, it would be fine. But to me, I think a way to engage the students and the best benefit would come from them picking the subject that they want to talk to us
Any other discussion?
Sort of circling around. So how many of us have had a virtual stranger come up to us and ask something because they know we're on the school board? And there are peers. There are people at pickleball, or there are people at Mom's Club, or there are people in the library or the Y. They recognize us and they feel comfortable because we're their peer. And we represent a pretty good cross-section of our community, except we do not represent student community. Having a student walk up to an adult saying, hey, I really don't feel comfortable about what's going on at this, whatever, that's a really high barrier of entry, to walk up to an adult and say something. And maybe it gets to a teacher, who gets to an administrator, who gets to us. So that's 4 levels. But if there was a student representation, some person, and their picture's up, or it's just known, then other kids, because that is their peer, would go to them and say, hey, school board rep kid person, try to be gender neutral. What's going on with the track, or bullying, or like, what do we spend our money on, or what's the deal? And that person will start bringing in, and they might say, I have no idea, but I know who to ask. And they do, because they'll have their couple days of boot camp of who does what, which I didn't know a single thing of before I had my boot camp of who does what. And they'll have their day of who does what, and they'll have that network, and they'll be able to say, like, oh yeah, hold on, that's not something we even do, that's like a state thing, but I bet this person could tell you more about it, or maybe this other thing is what you're really interested in. And so they would have a peer, they would have somebody at their level, at their school, who would have interaction and interface and the courage and opportunity to speak to us, because we'll talk to them and they'll find out we're not scary monster people. But to a high school student, we are very unapproachable. To administration and some teachers were unapproachable. So expecting a kid to step out of their comfort zone like 5 degrees to talk to us on a subject is a big barrier to entry. And sure, there's like 500 or so kids that would be eligible to this. Like you said, Alex, like at least 1 or 2 should be interested. And to Jill's point, maybe the first year we don't get anybody, but it's an opportunity, just like a scholarship that's not taken. It doesn't go away. You don't force someone to do it, but it's there. And every time someone, it's one more thing that Molly, like you could say, hey, you know, there's a board position, you should apply for that in September. And it's one more thing in your toolbox to offer to the kids that would be a valid asset. And that's just talking from their side. From our side, there's things we don't know, There's things that come up as surprises to us that if you ask any high school students, say, oh yeah, it's been going for ages. And we've been caught short in a couple situations where had we had someone who felt the responsibility to say, hey, there's something brewing, I think we need to look at this, that we would have known ahead of time. And that's, you never know when a George Floyd's going to happen and how it affects our students, or a Black Lives Matter and how that affects our students, or even if it's just some tragedy within our community and how that affects our student. Having somebody that we can rely on to not have a buffer between us and them, I think is really important. And so many businesses do that. They have voice of the customer. They pay thousands and thousands of dollars to have focus groups of consumers coming in and telling them what they want. This is the voice of our customer, and it's our students. And I absolutely agree. We should have kids on committees, and maybe that's what's going to happen next year. But if we wait, it will never happen. You have to build it, and they will come. Not they'll come, and then we'll build it. So we're building an athletic facility with the expectation that they're going to rise to the occasion. We built awesome buildings, and how many stories have we heard about kids saying they feel more school pride because of the facility we created for them? And this is an esoteric opportunity we are creating for them. And I think it's important, and I don't think there's anything to lose at all. So I hope that it can be supported.
Thank you, Member Luthner. Member Rayfield was next, and we'll go to Member Tyson.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think we're doing what we don't want to be doing, is we're just kind of speaking for the students. Maybe what we should do is, these are two pretty good representations of the ideas that have been brought forth by us. Maybe since Principal Caldwell is probably looking for stuff to do, maybe we should ask some students what they, I mean, maybe identify some students and just ask them what they think about these two different proposals, and we can use that in some of our deliberations.
Tyson.
So, Member Luthner, I'm curious, so is it your perception that one student out of 1,200 at our high school will be sought out and asked questions of? Is that how you're seeing it? That one student, and I just want to say that I don't feel like that's my perception, that students never came and asked me questions. I've always had that experience being on the board with our students. If I'm at a game or if I'm at a dancing function, whatever, they'll ask questions. But is it your perception that that one student versus like having multiple and a whole group organization coming and presenting? So I'm just confused.
I think we should have both. And we could have kids on every committee right now. We just don't. So that policy isn't something we need to make. So we can have kids on committees every day. And
but
that's
we have to get them on.
Right. So that's an outreach thing, and that's hey, we should make this more apparent that it's an option, but it's not creating anything new that they couldn't have taken advantage of. We just need to ask them. But I have been asked by parents and kids at Lino, parents at Lino, because that's where I am. And I have not particularly been approached by kids. And like you end up having your peer group say, oh, I recognize someone, I feel comfortable asking them a question. And that's just, let's throw the kids some opportunity. No, they're not all 1,000 going to go ask one, but maybe like 75 might ask that one. And right now it's 0. So I don't perceive they will speak for all students, but they will be a voice and there'll be an opportunity.
So you don't see any merit in building up the students on committees and then kind of launching off that for a rep when they're comfortable, they've been involved.
So if I may, I think that what I think we should do with this, which would facilitate, I think, what everybody's thinking, is that we would refer this to the policy committee, who would be able to take it up in September. There will be a student on the policy committee, or 2, hopefully, and those students would then have their voice heard in whatever policy we would put forward, to Member Rayfield's point, and it would be the starting off point of getting a policy in place in order to put a student on the board, should we do it, and then we would get another kick at that can when that policy would come forward to the board. We would then be able to debate the policy as it was brought forward from the committee, and we would be able to pass it or not pass it. Member Corcoran?
Well, I just, reading that South Washington schools, what they do, they have ambassadors, which reading that is pretty amazing that they actually have a group. They're asked to create an ambassador group so they would get students from NHS, FFA. I I mean, all the different divisions within the school and get a group, and then they actually all get together and they take turns presenting to the board. I mean, which I think is also a really valid to hear the voices from all the different groups. I think that is a fabulous, even as a separate thing. I mean, I love that idea. So,
Can I clarify, board chair? So, correct me if I'm wrong. So we will not be able to go ahead with expanding student engagement in the fall? Or we are going ahead with that plan?
We can expand student engagement on committees at any time they're open
And
to the
they
public,
like to get the
except
board-
for staff welfare. Staff welfare would not be open.
Right, and I would like to get the student report.
yeah.
Yeah, we can certainly do that without any change here whatsoever. So that being said, would we have a motion to refer to the policy committee the creation of a policy to put a policy together to place a student on the school board, as well as what the parameters around that would be, like maybe serving on a committee first, or those sort of things? So, all right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion on motion.
And that policy would then come back to the board for a complete review before it goes anywhere else.
It would most likely be, the first month would be consideration. Come to the board most likely at the first meeting in October for first reading, discussion, consideration, and then approval in November. Would be the timeline for that.
So, given that, I don't want to miss out on the opportunity for expanding students. Because I think we're just in a waiting game now because we're pushing policy. So I don't want that to happen.
So,
Not binary.
right, we have a motion on the floor. That discussion is not germane to this motion, which is a policy to put student on the board itself. And we can take that up as soon as we get through this motion.
But I don't know if I'm for this motion if I don't know that. So.
Can't know that because it's not on the floor.
Too late, whatever.
Do we have any further discussion? Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Member Corcoran. Aye. Member Kevin.
Aye.
Member Olson.
Aye.
Member Rayfield.
Aye.
Member Tyson.
No.
Member Peterson.
Aye.
Member Luzner votes aye.
Motion passes. All right. Do we have further discussion on expanding committees?
And having a student report.
So, go ahead, Member Luther.
I feel like we can ask for those right now.
We can.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I was gonna suggest that we, as a board, direct administration to put together a group of students to report to the board, and also Principal Caldwell seek out some students to expand their participation on committees. Does that work for everyone?
And I think we can have that ready right away at the start of the year. We think, that'd be the mid-September committee meeting.
Can I ask a question? Would you like that to be an application process for the committees, or would you like that to be an appointment process?
And
We
what I
can do
will-
either.
I'll submit to the board my concept of what that might look like. I don't know that, this is an operational piece, not a board governance piece. So there'll be opportunity for you to give me some feedback over the next couple of months on that, but Jim asked a fair question. We'll need a process for that, for identification, nomination, whatever it might be. But then also the structure for selection of the student report, how broad we want that to be, and so on and so forth. So we'll put those pieces together and we'll be ready at the start of the year.
Find my agenda here. I believe that concludes 8-9. Seeing nothing under new business, review the upcoming calendar dates, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment signify by aye.
Aye.
Meeting's